The massive alien ship appeared on Earth sensors at exactly 9:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Lieutenant Dongwu was drinking coffee in the Deep Space Monitoring Station when every alarm in the building started screaming at once. "Contact! Contact!" he shouted into his radio. "Unknown vessel, massive displacement entering outer solar system." The ship was huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. It moved with purpose, heading straight for Earth at a speed that should have been impossible. Within minutes, every military commander on the planet was staring at the same terrifying image on their screens. At the Korean Defense Ministry, General Soo Jin watched the alien vessel with calm eyes. She had been waiting for this moment for 30 years. While other generals panicked and politicians screamed for emergency meetings, Soo Jin picked up a secure phone and spoke just 2 words. Protocol 7. Around the world, hidden systems came online. Satellites that appeared to be commercial weather stations revealed their true purpose as military defense platforms. Underground bunkers that did not exist on any public map opened their sealed doors. Men and women who officially worked as teachers, farmers, and shopkeepers received coded messages and began moving toward secret locations. Colonel Taeho, now graying but still sharp, arrived at the command center within 20 minutes. He had been expecting this call for decades. As he walked through the blast doors, he saw dozens of officers he recognized from a very different kind of military unit, one that officially did not exist. "Status report," Taeho said calmly. "Single vessel, estimated crew of 50,000, replied Major Youngmi, reading from her display. "They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Translation computers are working on their language now." The alien message came through an hour later, translated by computers that had been quietly learning alien languages from intercepted communications for 90 years. The voice was cold and mechanical. "People of Earth, we are the Cathari Empire. Your species represents a threat to galactic peace. We have observed your violent nature and deem you unfit for star travel. You have 24 hours to surrender unconditionally. Comply, and you will be allowed to serve our empire as slaves. Resist, and you will be exterminated." The message repeated in dozens of Earth languages, each translation perfectly accurate. News networks around the world began broadcasting the alien ultimatum. Panic spread through major cities as people realized that humanity was about to be invaded by creatures from space. But in the Korean command center, Taeho was smiling. "They studied us," he said to his officers. "For how long, do you think?" "At least 50 years, replied Youngmi, analyzing the linguistic patterns. "Maybe longer. They know our languages too well for recent observation." "Excellent," Taeho said. "Then they know exactly what we wanted them to know." Dr. Hana burst into the command center, her security clearance getting her past the guards. She was breathing hard from running, her eyes wide with panic. "Colonel, my research. They're quoting my research in their broadcasts. They know about human reaction times, stress responses, everything I published." "Of course they do," Taeho replied calmly. "That was the point." Hana stared at him. "What are you talking about?" Taeho gestured to a wall display that showed the alien ship. "Dr. Hana, how long have you been publishing research on human limitations?" 20 years, but I don't understand." "And how accurate was that research?" Hana hesitated. "Well, it was based on average populations, but there were always exceptions, special cases, classified subjects I couldn't write about because—" She stopped, her eyes widening as understanding dawned. "Because those subjects were military personnel who had undergone classified enhancement procedures," Taeho finished. "People whose capabilities were state secrets." Around the command center, other officers were revealing the truth. The satellites the aliens had observed were decoys, broadcasting false information about human military strength. The wars they had watched were carefully staged, showing only older weapons and outdated tactics. Engineer Kyung-soo arrived with a cart full of devices that looked like nothing the aliens could have seen before. "Gravitational wave disruptors are online," he reported. "Sonic liquefaction weapons ready. Molecular bond scramblers at full charge." "What are those?" Hana asked, staring at the strange weapons. Things we never used in any war, Kyung-soo explained. Things we never tested where they could be observed. Things that exist nowhere in their intelligence files. The alien ship continued its approach, broadcasting increasingly hostile messages. World leaders appeared on television, some calling for immediate surrender, others demanding hopeless resistance. But Tae-ho ignored them all. He had been preparing for this moment since he was a young officer. "Sir," Lieutenant Dongwoo reported, "they're launching smaller ships. Landing craft, maybe 500 of them." "Shock troops," Tae-ho nodded. "They want to take our major cities quickly, break our will to fight. Standard invasion doctrine." "How do we respond?" Soo-jin asked. "We let them land exactly where we want them to," Tae-ho replied. "Captain Min-ho, are your rapid response teams ready?" A young officer stepped forward. Min-ho looked ordinary, like any other soldier. But Hana noticed something strange about his eyes. They moved too fast, tracking multiple objects at once with impossible precision. "Ready, sir." All teams report enhanced reflexes stable at 0.08 seconds average. Combat stims show green across the board. "Guide, 8 seconds," Hana gasped. "That's impossible. Human reflexes can't." "Human reflexes as you publish them," Tae-ho corrected. "But you were never allowed to study our special forces, were you?" The alien landing craft chose their targets predictably. Major population centers where they expected to find panicked civilians and overwhelmed military forces. Seoul was their primary target, exactly as Tae-ho had hoped. "They're coming in, fast and low," reported Sergeant Bora from her position in the city. 500 troops per transport, just like the models predicted. Bora looked like a normal soldier, but like Min-ho, there was something different about her. She stood too still, breathed too slowly, showed no signs of the fear that should have been overwhelming any normal person facing an alien invasion. "Fear response inhibitors working perfectly," she continued. "Ready to engage on your order." Around the world, similar teams took positions. These were not the soldiers the aliens had observed in human wars. These were something new, enhanced humans whose capabilities had been hidden for decades, waiting for exactly this moment. "Corporal Jin-wook, report from Busan," came another voice. "In position, sir. Neural boosters online. Enhanced coordination protocols active. The enemy won't know what hit them." The aliens had spent a century studying humanity's past. They had prepared for every weapon they had seen, every tactic they had observed, every human limitation that had ever been published. But they had never seen the weapons that were still classified. They had never observed the tactics that were kept secret. And they had certainly never studied humans who had been quietly enhanced far beyond normal biological limits. "Time to landing?" Tae-ho asked. 6 minutes, sir." "Perfect. Signal all units. Let them land. Let them deploy. Let them begin their attack exactly as they planned. And then?" Tae-ho smiled the same smile he had worn in countless battles over the years. But this time it was different. This time, he was not fighting with the weapons and tactics the enemy expected. This time, humanity would reveal what it had really become during those 100 years of secret preparation. Then we show them what humans are actually capable of. The alien landing craft descended through Earth's atmosphere, their crews confident after a century of preparation. They had studied every aspect of human military capability. They knew exactly what to expect. They were about to discover that everything they knew was wrong. General Soo-jin watched the countdown clock on her display. In 6 minutes, 50,000 alien warriors would learn why humanity had let them observe Earth's wars for so long. It was not because humans were primitive. It was because humans understood that the greatest weapon was misdirection, and the greatest strategy was letting your enemy think they knew everything about you while revealing nothing of what you had really become. The aliens were about to receive an education in human military doctrine that no amount of observation could have prepared them for. The radio signal came from a small blue planet in a quiet corner of the galaxy. Fleet Commander Vex stared at the data on his screen, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he processed what he was seeing. The transmission was crude, primitive, even, but it carried something that made his blood run cold. Violence. The humans were broadcasting their wars to space, images of explosions, soldiers running across battlefields, massive weapons that could destroy entire cities. Vex had seen many species in his long career, but never had he witnessed creatures so eager to kill their own kind. "Commander," his aide Crix whispered, "should we report this to High Command?" Vex nodded slowly. The Cathari Empire had ruled 7 star systems for over 3,000 years. They had conquered dozens of worlds, but always against species that valued peace above all else. These humans were different. They were dangerous. The report reached the Cathari Council within days. The old rulers gathered in their crystal towers watching the human broadcasts with growing horror. On the screens, they saw armies clashing, bombs falling from the sky, and weapons that could kill thousands in seconds. "They must be stopped," declared Elder Zeph, his voice echoing in the council chamber. "A species this violent will spread across the galaxy like a plague, but they are so far away," another elder pointed out. "Their technology is primitive. They cannot even leave their own system." "Not yet," Zeph replied. "But look how quickly they develop new weapons. In just 50 years, they went from simple guns to nuclear bombs. How long before they build starships?" The council voted unanimously. Earth would be invaded and its people enslaved before they could become a galactic threat. But this would not be a rushed attack. The humans were too dangerous for that. This would require the greatest military preparation in Cathari history. Fleet Commander Vex was given command of the operation. He moved his fleet to a hidden base near Earth's solar system and began the longest intelligence-gathering mission the Cathari had ever attempted. Using advanced sensors and stolen satellite signals, he watched humanity for years. What he saw both fascinated and terrified him. The humans never stopped fighting. They had massive armies, advanced weapons, and leaders who seemed to think 3 moves ahead in every battle. On the Korean peninsula, Vex watched a young colonel named Taiho lead his forces against impossible odds and win every time. The colonel's strategies were brilliant, almost alien in their complexity. "Study him carefully," Vex ordered his intelligence team. "This Taiho represents their military mind at its most dangerous." For decades, the Cathari recorded everything. They watched human wars, analyzed human tactics, and documented every weapon they could see. They studied how humans moved in battle, how fast they could react, and what made them afraid. The data was overwhelming. Humans could run for hours without stopping. They could survive injuries that would kill most species. They worked together, in groups with perfect coordination. And their weapons were devastating. But Vex noticed something important. The humans always showed their best technology in their wars. They used their most advanced planes, their smartest missiles, their strongest armor. They held nothing back when fighting each other. "That is their weakness," Vex told his officers. "They reveal everything in combat. We can prepare for all of it." The Cathari began developing countermeasures for every human weapon they had observed. They created armor that could stop bullets and deflect explosions. They built shields that would protect against electromagnetic weapons. They designed tactics to exploit human psychology and turn their aggression against them. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Hana worked in her laboratory, unaware that alien eyes were watching. She was one of Earth's top scientists, studying human biology and publishing her research for the world to see. Her papers detailed human reaction times, physical limitations, and biological weaknesses. The Cathari intercepted every publication. They learned that humans needed oxygen to breathe, water to survive, and sleep to function. They discovered that human reflexes averaged 0.25 seconds, that humans became confused under extreme stress, and that they could be paralyzed by fear. "Perfect," Vex said as he read Hana's latest paper. "Now we know exactly how to defeat them." The years turned into decades. The Cathari built a massive invasion force, training 50,000 elite warriors specifically to fight humans. Each soldier studied human combat footage until they could predict every move. They practiced against holographic human opponents programmed with every tactic the aliens had observed. The training was intense. Cathari warriors learned to exploit the 0.25-second reaction time window. They practiced psychological warfare, designed to trigger human fear responses. They memorized the specifications of every human weapon and the countermeasures needed to defeat them. General Thek, commander of the ground forces, was particularly proud of his troops. "We have studied these humans longer than they have studied themselves," he boasted. "Our warriors know their weaknesses better than they do." As the invasion force grew stronger, the Cathari continued monitoring Earth. They watched as human technology slowly advanced. New planes, better tanks, improved communications. But nothing unexpected. Nothing they had not already planned for. Colonel Teho, now older but still brilliant, continued to win battles with the same strategies the aliens had been studying for decades. His rapid response tactics, his use of combined arms, his ability to coordinate large forces, all of it was documented in Cathari intelligence files. Dr. Hanna published new research on human endurance and stress tolerance. The Cathari read every word, updating their invasion plans accordingly. They knew exactly how much punishment a human body could take before breaking. After 90 years of preparation, the Cathari felt ready for anything. Their armor could stop any human weapon. Their shields could deflect any human attack. Their warriors had trained against every human tactic ever recorded, but Vex wanted to be absolutely certain. He ordered 10 more years of observation, watching for any changes in human behavior or technology. The additional surveillance showed more of the same. Humans fighting with the same weapons, using the same tactics, displaying the same weaknesses. The final invasion force was magnificent. 50,000 warriors in powered armor, armed with energy weapons that could cut through any human defense. 500 combat vehicles designed to operate in Earth's environment. A command ship equipped with every countermeasure needed to defeat human resistance. "We have spent a century preparing for this moment," Vex addressed his fleet. "We know their every strength and weakness. We have trained against their every tactic. This will not be a battle. It will be an execution." The warriors cheered. They had studied humans so long that fighting them seemed almost routine. How could primitive creatures with slow reflexes and predictable tactics stand against the might of the Cathari Empire? Fleet Commander Vex gave the order to begin the jump to Earth's solar system. The massive ships engaged their faster-than-light drives, carrying the most prepared invasion force in galactic history toward their target. As the fleet traveled through space, Vex reviewed the final intelligence reports. Human military strength was estimated at acceptable levels. Their weapons were cataloged and countered. Their leaders, including the aging Colonel Teho, were well understood. There would be some resistance, of course. Humans were violent by nature, but it would be brief and futile. The Cathari had prepared for every possible scenario. The jump to Earth's solar system would take 3 days. During that time, the warriors made final preparations, checking their armor and weapons last time. They reviewed their training hollows, practicing the tactics that would let them crush human resistance quickly and efficiently. Vex stood on his command deck, watching the stars blur past. A century of preparation was about to pay off. Soon, the dangerous humans would be defeated, and the galaxy would be safe from their violent nature. He had no idea that his century of careful observation had been exactly what the humans wanted him to see. The first Cathari transport ship landed in Seoul at exactly 2:17 p.m. 500 alien warriors poured out of the craft, their energy weapons charged and ready. They moved in perfect formation, just as they had practiced 10,000 times, against holographic human opponents. Captain Minho watched them through his scope from a rooftop 3 blocks away. The aliens were impressive, tall, armored, disciplined. Their movements were precise and coordinated. Any normal human military force would have been overwhelmed in seconds, but Minho was not normal anymore. "Contact in 30 seconds, he whispered into his radio. His enhanced reflexes were already tracking 12 different targets, his modified nervous system processing tactical data faster than any unaugmented human could think. The aliens advanced. Down the street, expecting to face conventional human soldiers with conventional human weapons. Their armor could stop bullets. Their shields could deflect explosions. They had trained for exactly this scenario. Minho raised his sonic disruptor and fired. The weapon made no sound. There was no flash of light, no visible beam. But the lead alien warrior suddenly stopped moving. His armor began to vibrate, then shake, then tear apart as the molecular bonds holding it together dissolved. In 0.08 seconds, Minho had acquired and fired on 6 more targets. The alien's 0.25-second reaction time meant they were still processing the first attack when the second wave hit them. "What?" one alien managed to say before the sonic waves reached his vocal cords and turned them to liquid. Across the city, similar scenes played out. Sergeant Bora's team engaged a full company of alien troops in a narrow alley. The Cathari warriors advanced confidently, their training telling them that humans would panic and retreat under coordinated fire. Instead, Bora charged straight at them. Her fear inhibitors kept her calm as energy blasts sizzled past her head. Her enhanced muscles let her move faster than the aliens could track. Her neural boosters calculated the exact path between their weapons that would let her reach their formation alive. She covered 30 meters in 1.2 seconds and slammed into the alien line like a meteor. Her combat knife went through Cathari, armor like paper, seeking the weak points that Kyungsu's intelligence teams had mapped from the wreckage of their scout ships. "Impossible!" the alien squad leader gasped as Bora spun through his warriors, her blade finding vital organs with surgical precision. "Humans cannot move this fast." Bora looked up at him, her enhanced eyes focusing with predatory intensity. "You studied the wrong humans." Meanwhile, in the command center, Colonel Taeho watched tactical displays from around the globe. Each screen showed the same story. Alien forces landing according to their careful plans only to encounter human defenders who fought nothing like the creatures they had observed. "London reporting," came a voice through the radio. "Enemy force neutralized in 90 seconds, no casualties. Sydney confirms," another voice added. Gravitational wave weapons worked perfectly. The alien's armor just folded in on itself. "Moscow here. Molecular scramblers turned their energy shields into plasma. They never got a shot off." Taeho nodded with satisfaction. A century of letting the aliens watch humanity's old wars had paid off perfectly. The Cathari had prepared to fight War III. Instead, they were facing World War VII. On his flagship, Fleet Commander Vex stared at his tactical screens in growing horror. Red lights were appearing everywhere as his ground forces reported impossible casualties. The humans were not fighting like the creatures he had studied. They were faster, stronger, more coordinated than any biological being should be. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "Ground Team 7 reports that human weapons are ignoring our armor completely." "That cannot be correct," Vex replied. "Our armor stops all kinetic weapons. We tested it against every human projectile." "They are not using projectiles, sir. Some kind of energy field that makes our armor dissolve." Vex's 4 eyes widened. Energy weapons required massive power sources. His intelligence had never observed humans using anything like that in their wars. Where had this technology come from? "Ground. Team 12 reports similar issues," another officer announced. "The humans are moving too fast for our targeting systems. Computer analysis shows reaction times of 0.08 seconds. "Impossible," Vex snapped. "Human biological limits do not allow for such speed. Dr. Hana's research clearly states—" "Dr. Hana's research was wrong, sir, or incomplete. These humans are operating far beyond documented parameters." Back in Seoul, Corporal Jin Wook led his squad through the alien landing zone like ghosts. The Cathari had expected human soldiers to advance in formation, using cover, following predictable military doctrine. Instead, Jin Wook's team moved in 3 dimensions. Enhanced reflexes let them leap between buildings with impossible accuracy. Boosted coordination allowed them to attack from multiple angles simultaneously. Advanced targeting systems built into their modified nervous systems meant every shot found its mark. "Sir," one of his soldiers reported, "the aliens are trying to retreat to their landing ships." "Let them," Jin Wook replied. The ships are already handled. Above the city, Engineer Kyung-soo's orbital defense network had finally revealed itself. Satellites that had pretended to monitor weather for decades suddenly unleashed concentrated gravitational fields. The alien transport ships, built to withstand conventional weapons, crumpled like paper under forces their designers had never imagined. "Beautiful," Kyung-soo whispered from his control station. 90 years of hiding those satellites in plain sight, and they never suspected a thing. Dr. Hana watched the battle unfold from the command center, her mind reeling as she realized the scope of what she was witnessing. Every piece of research she had published, every human limitation she had documented, had been deliberately misleading. "You use my work as disinformation," she said to Taeho. "Your work was accurate," he replied, not taking his eyes off the tactical displays. "For normal humans, but we stopped being normal a long time ago. The enhancements. How long have you been developing them? Since we first detected alien observation 50 years ago, we knew someone was watching. We made sure they saw exactly what we wanted them to see. The battle, if it could even be called that, was ending as quickly as it had begun. Alien warriors who had trained for a century to fight primitive humans found themselves facing enhanced soldiers with impossible reflexes, unknown weapons, and tactics that existed in no database. Fleet Commander Vex watched his casualty reports climb toward total disaster. In less than 4 minutes, he had lost half his ground forces. The survivors were scattered, confused, and completely outmatched. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, voice shaking, "remaining ground forces are requesting immediate extraction." "Denied," Vex snapped. "We have prepared for this moment for 100 years. I will not accept defeat from primitive—" "Sir," another voice interrupted. "Human vessels approaching from planetary defense stations." On the main display, sleek ships rose from hidden bases around Earth. They moved with impossible speed and agility, armed with weapons that made space itself ripple around them. "Where did those come from?" Vex demanded. "Our intelligence showed no human space-based military assets." "Unknown, sir. They appear to have been hidden inside what we identified as civilian installations." The human ships opened fire with weapons the Cathari had never seen before. Beams of twisted space-time struck the alien fleet, causing their shields to collapse and their hulls to age decades in seconds. General Thek's voice crackled over the communication system from the surface. "Commander, my warriors cannot fight. These creatures, they move like demons, strike like lightning, and our weapons cannot touch them." "Impossible," Vex shouted back. "You have trained against every human tactic. You know their capabilities." "We trained against the humans they showed us," Thek replied desperately. "These are not the same species." Captain Minho's voice echoed through the chaos as he led the final assault on the alien command post in Seoul. "This is for every world you conquered, every species you enslaved, and every peaceful civilization you destroyed because you thought they were weak." The last organized alien resistance crumbled in Minute 5. Scattered groups of Cathari warriors tried to establish defensive positions, but enhanced human soldiers appeared wherever they went, striking from impossible angles with weapons that ignored every defensive measure. "All units, this is Fleet Command. Signal full retreat. Abandon ground operations immediately." But it was too late. Engineer Kyung-soo's orbital network had surrounded the entire battle zone with fields of exotic energy. No Cathari ship could move. No warrior could escape. At exactly 6 minutes and 43 seconds after the first alien warrior had set foot on Earth, the last Cathari soldier fell. Total alien casualties: 50,000 warriors, 500 landing craft, and most of their orbital fleet. Human casualties: 12 soldiers, all from equipment malfunctions rather than enemy action. The most prepared invasion force in galactic history had been annihilated by an enemy they thought they understood completely. In the sudden silence that followed, Colonel Taeho spoke calmly into his radio. "All units, this is command. Mission accomplished. Begin prisoner collection and technology recovery operations." The 6-minute war was over. The prisoner interrogation room was quiet except for the soft humming of recording equipment. Fleet Commander Vex sat in a chair designed for humans, his forearms bound with restraints that his century of preparation had never accounted for. Across from him, Dr. Hana reviewed her notes with the calm precision of a scientist studying a fascinating new specimen. "You spent 100 years watching us," she said, looking up at the defeated alien commander. "Tell me what you learned." Vex's eyes focused on her with a mixture of hatred and confusion. "We learned that humans are violent, primitive creatures who reveal all their capabilities in warfare. We studied your reflexes, your weapons, your tactics. We prepared for everything." "Everything you could see," Hana corrected, "but you never asked the most important question." "What question?" "Why were we letting you watch?" The revelation had come slowly in the days after the invasion. As human intelligence teams processed captured Cathari data, the full scope of alien surveillance became clear. For over 90 years, advanced sensors had monitored Earth from hidden positions throughout the solar system. Every human conflict had been recorded. Every weapon had been analyzed. Every tactical manual had been intercepted and translated. Colonel Tejo stood in the main briefing room, addressing a gathering of world leaders who were still struggling to understand what had happened. The walls displayed star charts showing Cathari territory, 7 star systems that had been left virtually undefended while their entire military focused on the Earth invasion. "The enemy made 3 critical errors," Tejo explained. "First, they assumed that what they observed represented our full capabilities. Second, they believed that technological progress follows predictable patterns. Third, they never considered that we might be aware of their surveillance." President Martinez of the American Federation raised her hand. "Colonel, how long have you known about alien observation?" "We detected the first monitoring satellites 52 years ago," Tejo replied. "Our deep space sensors picked up energy signatures that did not match any natural phenomena. It took us 3 years to confirm they were artificial, and another 2 to realize they were watching our military activities with particular interest." Prime Minister Chen of the Pacific Alliance looked skeptical. "And your response was to let them watch?" "Our response was to control what they saw," Tejo corrected. "Every major conflict for the past 50 years was conducted with the knowledge that alien eyes were recording our actions. We made sure those actions told a very specific story." Major Young Mi activated a holographic display showing human military development over the past century. 2 parallel lines appeared, one showing public knowledge, the other showing classified advancement. "This is what the aliens observed," she said, pointing to the lower line. "Steady but predictable improvement in conventional weapons, armor, and tactics. Normal biological humans with documented limitations and psychological vulnerabilities." She pointed to the upper line, which showed exponential growth starting 30 years earlier. "This is what we actually achieved. Enhanced soldiers, exotic weapons, advanced spacecraft, and tactical doctrine designed specifically to counter an invasion by technologically superior enemies." In her laboratory, Dr. Hana interviewed another prisoner, General Thek, who had commanded the ground invasion. The alien warrior was missing 2 of his forearms, lost to Sergeant Bora's molecular cutting blade during the Seoul assault. "Your research was wrong," Thek accused her. "You said humans had reaction times of 0.25 seconds. The creatures who attacked us moved in 0.08 seconds. "My research was accurate for the population I was allowed to study," Hana replied patiently. "But I was never permitted to examine enhanced subjects. Those studies were classified at the highest levels." "Enhanced? You modified your own species?" "We evolved ourselves," Hana corrected. "When we realized that someone was watching us preparing to invade, we decided to become something worth their attention." The enhancement programs had begun in secret research facilities around the world. Neural boosters that increased reaction times and processing speed. Muscular modifications that provided superhuman strength and endurance. Fear inhibitors that allowed soldiers to function perfectly under extreme stress. Most importantly, the enhancements had been tested and refined in complete secrecy. No enhanced human had ever participated in any observed conflict. The aliens' intelligence files contained no information about modified soldiers, because no such soldiers had ever been deployed where they could be detected. Engineer Kyung-soo led a team of scientists through the captured Cathari mothership, marveling at technology that was simultaneously advanced and obsolete. The aliens had built their entire civilization around the assumption that progress was slow and predictable. "Look at this," he said to his assistant, pointing to an alien computer core. "Their processing power is incredible, but their programming is completely static. They build something once and never change it." "Is that bad?" the assistant asked. "It is if you are facing an enemy that innovates constantly," Kyung-soo replied. "They spent a century perfecting countermeasures for weapons we used in the 21st century. Meanwhile, we developed entirely new categories of warfare they never imagined. The captured alien technology revealed other critical weaknesses. The Cathari had designed their ships and equipment to function for thousands of years without major changes. Their society valued stability and tradition above adaptation. Humanity, by contrast, had learned to rebuild itself every generation. Human technology advanced exponentially because humans expected it to advance exponentially. Where aliens saw perfection, humans saw starting points. Scientist Wu Jin had spent just 3 days studying Cathari faster than light drives before, announcing that he could build improved versions using human manufacturing techniques. His team worked around the clock, combining alien principles with human innovation to create hybrid systems that surpassed anything either species had built alone. The aliens made their FTL drives to last forever, Wu Jin explained to a gathering of engineers. So they made them conservative, stable, and impossible to modify. "We can make ours faster, more efficient, and upgradable." "How much faster?" someone asked. "About 30 times faster," Wu Jin replied casually. "Maybe 50 times once we optimize the power coupling." The strategic implications were staggering. In the captured navigation computers, human analysts found detailed maps of Cathari space. 7 star systems, dozens of worlds, billions of alien civilians protected by defense fleets that had been built to fight enemies from 1,000 years ago. Major Young Mi presented her findings to the Global Military Council. "Their home defenses are designed to stop the same kind of conventional attacks they used against other species centuries ago. Energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, basic electronic warfare." "What about their reserve fleets?" asked General Soo-jin. "Minimal," Young Mi replied. "They committed almost their entire military to the Earth invasion. What remains is primarily patrol vessels and system defense platforms using technology we can now counter easily." The prisoners confirmed humanity's intelligence assessments. The Cathari Empire had become complacent after millennia of easy victories against peaceful species. They had never faced an enemy that prepared specifically to defeat them, and their rigid military doctrine could not adapt to unexpected tactics. "We ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, Fleet Commander Vex said during another interrogation session. "We conquered 47 worlds. No species had ever successfully resisted our forces." "What made those victories possible?" Colonel Teho asked. "Superior technology and careful preparation," Vex replied automatically. "We studied our enemies, learned their weaknesses, and applied overwhelming force at critical points." "And you assumed we would be like your previous enemies." "We assumed you were biological creatures bound by natural limitations." Vex's voice carried a note of bitter understanding. "We never considered that a species might modify itself to transcend those limitations. The most shocking revelation came when human analysts decoded the full scope of Cathari intelligence gathering. The aliens had not just studied Earth. They had identified and cataloged every habitable world within 50 light years. Dozens of young civilizations were marked for future conquest once the human threat was eliminated. Dr. Hana found the files particularly disturbing. Species barely beginning to develop spaceflight were already marked as potential threats to be neutralized. Peaceful civilizations were scheduled for enslavement based on resource calculations and strategic value. "They were never just planning to invade Earth," she reported to the Global Council. "This was the first step in a campaign to control this entire region of the galaxy." The ethical implications were clear. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had prevented the conquest of dozens of other worlds. The failed invasion had crippled the Cathari Empire's ability to project power beyond its home systems. Colonel Tejo stood before the assembled world leaders, his expression grave. "We have a decision to make. The alien empire is crippled, but not destroyed. Their homeworlds remain populated by billions of civilians who had no say in this invasion. What are our options?" asked President Martinez. 6 months after the failed alien invasion, the first human interstellar fleet launched from hidden shipyards that had been disguised as asteroid mining operations for decades. Admiral Tejo, promoted after his strategic brilliance during the invasion, stood on the bridge of the flagship Determination, watching Earth shrink behind them. The fleet was magnificent in a way that would have terrified the Cathari if they had understood what they were seeing. 12 ships built with hybrid human-alien technology that surpassed anything either species had created alone. Each vessel carried weapons that could reshape matter at the molecular level and defensive systems that bent space-time itself. "Jump. Calculations complete," reported navigator Li Jin, her enhanced neural implants interfacing directly with the ship's computers. "Ready to enter faster than light travel on your command." "Engage," Tejo ordered. The stars stretched into lines of light as the human fleet entered the alien faster-than-light dimension. But where Cathari ships took days to cross the distance between star systems, the human vessels completed the journey in hours. Engineer Kyung-Soo's improvements to alien technology had proven even more effective than projected. Dr. Hana monitored the fleet's scientific instruments from her position as chief xenobiologist. This time her job was different. Instead of documenting human limitations for alien consumption, she was mapping the true capabilities and weaknesses of the Cathari Empire. "First system scan complete," she reported. "The Cathari homeworld shows massive population centers but minimal orbital defenses. Their military shipyards are operating at perhaps 10% capacity." "Confirmed," added Intelligence Officer Wu Jin. "Intercepted communications indicate widespread panic among their leadership. They lost contact with their invasion fleet 6 months ago and have no idea what happened." The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Cathari home system. Immediately, alarm signals began broadcasting from the alien worlds. Defense platforms that had protected the system for thousands of years powered up their ancient weapons. Admiral Tejo opened communications channels that reached every inhabited world in the system. His message was broadcast in perfect Cathari, translated by computers that had learned the language from interrogating prisoners. "People of the Cathari Empire, this is Admiral Tejo of the Human Federation. Your invasion fleet attacked our world 6 months ago. It has been completely destroyed. We come not as conquerors, but as the new dominant species in this region of space. Surrender now, and your civilians will be protected." The response was immediate. Hundreds of Cathari defense ships launched from orbital stations around their homeworld, their crews determined to defend their civilization against the mysterious humans who had somehow destroyed their greatest fleet. But the alien ships moved. With the same predictable tactics they had used for millennia, their weapons were the same energy beams and kinetic projectiles they had relied on for centuries. Their strategies followed patterns that human analysts had studied for months while interrogating prisoners. "Enemy fleet approaching," reported Tactical Officer Dongwu. 200 vessels, standard Cathari configuration. They're following attack pattern Gamma 7. "The same pattern they used against the Rillan Empire 300 years ago," Tejo observed. "Begin countermeasures." The battle was over before it truly began. Human ships moved with impossible agility, their enhanced crews reacting to threats faster than Cathari targeting systems could track. Weapons that the aliens had never encountered turned their energy shields into prisons of twisted space and dissolved their armor with molecular disruptors. Within 20 minutes, the entire Cathari defense fleet was disabled. Not destroyed. The humans had specifically avoided killing unless absolutely necessary. Alien crews found their ships powerless but intact, their weapons offline but their life support still functioning. "Impressive," commented Commander Sujin, now serving as the fleet's diplomatic officer. "Minimal casualties, maximum psychological impact." Admiral Tejo opened communications again. Cathari Command. Your defense fleet has been neutralized. We repeat. Surrender now and your people will be protected. Continue resistance and we will be forced to demonstrate why your invasion of Earth lasted only 6 minutes. This time, the response was different. The proud voice of the Cathari High Council crackled through the speakers, but it carried a note of desperate confusion. Humans of Earth. We do not understand what has happened. Our invasion force was the greatest military expedition in galactic history. How could primitive creatures from a single world defeat 50,000 of our finest warriors? Dr. Hana took the communication. You studied us for 100 years, but you studied the wrong things. You watched our past while we built our future. You prepared to fight what we were, not what we chose to become. The explanation that followed stunned the aliens into silence. The humans described their enhancement programs, their secret weapons, development, and most importantly, their deliberate deception. For a century, the Cathari had been watching a carefully crafted performance designed to make them overconfident. You let us observe you, the Cathari High Council leader said, his voice barely a whisper. For 100 years you knew we were watching, and you let us see only what you wanted us to see. We learned from studying your previous conquests, Admiral Tejo replied. You always spent decades observing your targets, learning their capabilities, preparing countermeasures, so we made sure you learned exactly the wrong things about us. The surrender came within hours, not just from the home system, but from all 7 star systems of the Cathari Empire. News of the failed Earth invasion and the arrival of human fleet spread faster than any military response could be organized. Commander Sujin led the diplomatic teams that negotiated the terms of surrender. Unlike the Cathari Empire's historical approach to conquest, humanity offered surprising terms. Alien civilians would remain free. Cathari culture would be preserved. Local governments could continue operating under human oversight. Why are you not enslaving us? Asked Elder Zeph, the same alien leader who had first voted to invade Earth. It is the way of conquest. The strong dominate the weak. That is your way, Sujin replied. It is not ours. We fought to protect ourselves and prevent you from attacking other developing civilizations. We did not fight for the pleasure of ruling others, but humanity's true purpose became clear as Engineer Kyung-soo established research stations throughout former Cathari space. These were not occupation forces. They were preparation centers. Every installation was designed to study, develop, and produce new technologies at exponential rates. Admiral, Kyung-soo reported during their first monthly review. We have integrated Cathari manufacturing techniques with human innovation principles. Our production capacity has increased by 800% in just 30 days. Excellent. What about defensive preparations? All star systems now have early warning networks using hybrid sensor technology. If anyone else has been watching us the way the Cathari did, we will detect them immediately. Dr. Hana's teams made equally important discoveries. The alien databases contained information about dozens of other spacefaring civilizations, their locations, their technologies, and their potential threat levels. Some were peaceful traders who posed no danger. Others showed the same aggressive expansion patterns that had made the Cathari Empire dangerous. We have identified at least 3 other species that follow conquest-based expansion models, she reported to Admiral Tejo. The Vorthak Collective, the Hegemony of Suns, and something called the Devourer Fleet. How far away are they? The closest is approximately 200 light-years. At Cathari speeds, that represents decades of travel time. At our enhanced speeds, she paused to check her calculations. 6 months. The implications were clear. Humanity had not just defended Earth and conquered the Cathari Empire. They had positioned themselves at the center of a region of space where other aggressive species might eventually pose threats to developing civilizations. Young civilizations that were still learning to use fire while humans built ships that could cross the galaxy in weeks. The final scene took place in Admiral Tejo's quarters aboard the Determination, now serving as the flagship of humanity's expanding interstellar presence. A young Korean cadet named Ho Seok had requested a private meeting, his eyes bright with curiosity about the war that had changed everything. "Sir?" Ho Seok asked. "I have read all the reports about the invasion. I understand how we developed secret weapons and enhanced soldiers, but I still do not understand how we defeated an enemy that prepared for 100 years. Taeho smiled, the same expression he had worn during countless battles, but now tempered with the wisdom of someone who had seen humanity take its first steps toward galactic significance. "Cadet, what is the most important lesson from our victory?" Ho Seok thought carefully. "That preparation is important?" "No," Taeho replied. "The most important lesson is that our enemies prepared to fight the humans they observed. They studied our history, our biology, our psychology, and our technology. They learned everything they could about us. And that was not enough?